live from the Bayside Bunker. It's another edition of Bettin N Boozin on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Roscoe, almost your cameraless host, Kyle Roscoe. I'm sorry that we were a couple minutes late tonight. I was having technical issues with my camera and having StreamYard not recognize my camera device. So if you would have seen, this is the first time I'm showing this on air. If you would have seen this all night, that would have been freaking hilarious. But we did not get to see Noah's prepubescent face. However, you guys are stuck with my ugly mug. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you guys all so much for joining the show. I greatly appreciate it. And if you do enjoy this podcast as we cover the Gulfstream Park Saturday card with all stakes coverage, please go down below the video player here on YouTube, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it because not only is it 100% free to do and the best way to help out our channel, it also pushes these videos and others out into YouTube's algorithm to hopefully bring more horse players like yourself to the HHH Racing Podcast. And of course, for that, we thank you. My allergies are all over the place. I'm a mess right now, guys. But as you see scrolling on the bottom of the screen right now is our normal podcast schedule for every single week here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Every single Tuesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern, we have our West Coast show, Pacific Horseplayers, hosted by Noah Maher and co-hosted by Ryan Anderson and Jackson Muniz. This week, they covered the Santa Anita Late Pick5 on Saturday. So if that interests you at all, please go watch that podcast, of course, after you watch our show, which is normally at Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern every single week. Bettin N Boozin with myself, Andrew Rosinski, and Patrick Kunsel. And every single Thursday, they have Picks and Ponies with Howard, Pete, and Paul. This week covering a very nice Virginia Derby card over at Colonial Downs as they open for their very short meet here in the middle of March. But a ton of more content coming your guys' way, including Weekend Warriors this Saturday, covering not only NHC updates, which I'm very excited to be there again, along with the rest of the crew, but there will be another great Twin Spires contest. Of course, they sponsor us for the leaderboard and Weekend Warriors. So lots of stuff to love there. Again, hit that subscribe button if that interests you at all. You can also listen to all of our podcasts over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor in audio form. We also have TikTok and Instagram at Bettin N Boozin Podcast, doing a lot more over there, including my last two trips, the last 2 weekends to Fountain of Youth Day and Tampa Bay Derby. I'm going to talk about my experience at Tampa Bay. I really, really loved my day over at Tampa Bay Downs. But the leaderboard is a sponsored show by Twin Spires every single Wednesday night, covering live money contest play. If you never played a contest before or you are a seasoned veteran, this show is really good. It highlights the winning plays from last week's contest and also previews this week's contests coming up. Again, there's always a ton of content going over on that show, as well as contests over on twinspires.com as they get more and more into the contest game. They're one of the best in the business. Wire to wire every single Thursday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern. Highlights are the coast to coast pick 5 every single Saturday. And thank you to our good friends over at First Racing at Santa Anita for sponsoring that show. And Triple Crown Trail is a show that pops up every now and again over on the video section here on YouTube on the HHH Racing Podcast, not only covering Adelphi's horses, which is sponsored by a good friend, Matt Cutera and Adelphi Racing, but also horses that have cemented themselves on the Triple Crown Trail. You can also subscribe to our Power Picks as usual, all over on patreon.com/HHH Racing Podcast. Over 5 years running and still well into the positive ROI. We also have price play, spot plays, pick 5 grids, anything you need to be successful on any given Saturday. We here have you covered with the Power Picks, again, all done through Patreon. The link is also in the description as well. Guys, moving on to I'm going to bring on my co-host right now. And again, if you are in the live chat or here on YouTube and you haven't commented in the live chat yet, please, down on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, you will see that chat box. We read every single one. We would love your takes on these races, because not only is it just a normal racing day at Gulfstream, this heavily impacts the NHC tournament on Saturday. These races, at least, I don't know who's going to be listening to this from there. I'm hoping a lot of people do, of course, but this card in general also is a very heavy impact on Saturday's NHC run. So let's bring on my co-host and let's get right into the show. From the East Coast of Philadelphia, Andrew Rosinski, and joining us once again from the East Coast of New Jersey, Patrick Kunsel. Pat, good to have you back, my friend. But gentlemen, we're going to cover all stakes, as I mentioned. So it's going to be race 3 as well as the late pick 5. There's lots of really nice racing at Gulfstream on Saturday in what is kind of a little bit of a slow weekend, and that's honestly why the NHC, they always have it this weekend. It's kind of that middle week before between a lot of Derby preps, but now since Colonial has brought over their Virginia Derby, Andrew, it kind of has that effect back into it.
Yeah, I mean, there's always gonna be some good racing at this time of year, no matter where you go. So, to see these type of races that are a little bit more challenging for the NHC is always a fun time.
Yeah, and Pat, obviously, you have, I don't know, have you ever been to the NHC? I don't know if you have or not. No, right? But it's a
Never
fantastic.
I've heard some stuff.
Oh, yeah. Bring that. I was hoping you weren't gonna bring that up, but obviously we have a ton of fun over at the NHC. I hope that I can make it more than half a day this year. I'm telling you what, I'm not eating at that burger place this year. As much as Ryan Jackson and Noah love to give me crap about it, I'm not eating there. I promise you that. There's not a chance I will be eating there. But yeah, lots of fun things to come up on NHC. I'll post a bunch of stuff over on TikTok about it, as well as Twitter. Follow us on our Twitter. It's all on our handles. And I'm going to be going back to the tissues every now and again, so I do apologize. But my time, real quick, I want to talk about my time at Tampa Bay Downs, because it really was such a great experience. As much as I love tracks like Keeneland, Santa Anita, Gulfstream, Gulfstream's a little bit smaller, but there's something about those small tracks with that intricate atmosphere that really just gets me. Like Arlington was this way for me, and Tampa Bay Downs really showed that type of side. It was absolutely packed to the brim in there, and I want to give he's already in the chat. I see him in there, but I wanted to give a huge shout out to a viewer of the show, and Brett Alvarez, who brought me in. He had a ground suite, brought me and my wife Emma in, and we had a hell of a time. We kind of crashed not his bachelor party, but one of his buddies' bachelor parties, but he invited us in. There was never not a Michelob Ultra on my hands, so I'll give a big shout out to Brett for that, but probably met some wild group of people over there in Tampa. Brett, my friend, I thanked you I don't know how many times when I was there, and I really can't thank you enough for that day. We had an absolute blast and only made my time at Tampa Bay Downs that much better. Racing Downwind, of course, is here. Hurry up. The last chance, first chance starts tomorrow morning. I'm not going to be there. I'm going to basically be playing it by myself here, keep myself busy throughout the day and not have too much FOMO, as I will be there tomorrow night. But I'm hoping that this can provide a little bit of intel into what goes on in the NHC. But guys, there's a lot of races to cover here. And since I was all over the place, I'm going to bring up the Equibase on the screen here in 1 second as soon as I bring it up. But good luck to everybody out there that is going to play the NHC. We all know how tough it is. 750, 800 entrants, some with two entries, and it's just an absolute great time. But it's a very tough one to win. But big shout out to my good man Dan Piazza, of course, winner of last year, right back in the mix this year, and anyone else for Crownsway Racing. I hope you guys have a fantastic time and some good winners out there. But big shout out, of course, to Dan Piazza. First race we're going to cover, guys, as not part of the Late Pick 5, excuse me. It's race 3. It's the Any Limit Stakes, going 6 furlongs on the dirt for 3-year-old fillies, and I'll bring up on the screen right now. We do not, as we're covering Gulfstream Park on a Wednesday, you guys already know the deal by now. No morning lines, no numbers in the program. So, gentlemen, please do your best to talk about the numbers as well as the horses. And in a 6-horse field, we're going with 3 different horses. So that should tell you how interesting this type of field is for a race like this. That 3-year-old fillies, these Gulfstream ones like this can seem to be pretty straightforward, but obviously this one isn't. I'm going with the 6 Holland Drive. Andrew's actually going a little bit off the board here with the number 2 Sweet Ember. Pat, you're going with the number 5 Mythical, who's extremely fast. I'm going to let Andrew talk first, because this is a horse that I have in third. Pat has in second, but Ed Pliza, Jose Morelos, going a little bit more of lesser on connections, but this horse has ran some really nice races, and especially that last one on the dirt is an eye catcher in this field.
Yeah, I mean, this horse might not be classy enough when it comes to some of the other ones in here, but when it comes to speed figures, this one's probably in the best form out of all of them. And I think this one's also the quickest out of the group. I think Mythical is a pretty fast horse, but the 2 races where Sweet Ember was on the lead, I mean, those first quarter fractions are just faster than any other horse in here. And I think that on Saturday that it might be the same way. And I think there's nothing for them to lose if they don't go to the lead and try to, go as fast as they can in this spot. And I think this one's just really fast. for 2 wins that she has, she broke from the two hole, which is where she's breaking from today. She sat basically in the 2 path the whole way and just was in hand. I think she can get the similar trip today, and I'm going to probably get a good price on her. So why not go back to the horse that's, won the last 2 races by combined almost 11 lengths.
I think you're muted, Kyle.
That's on me. I was freaking doing my nose. But I think she's very fast, Pat. I cannot. I mean, Mythical's really fast too. And I see what you're saying, Andrew. The 22-1, 22-1, 22 is just exactly what the number 2 Sweet Ember is running. But Mythical is very fast. And if the 2 gets the lead on her own, I'd be very surprised in this field, which is actually why I'm going with a horse going to be probably first run from these 2, but I guess if any one of them gets away, they easily have a chance to win.
Yeah, I would agree, Kyle. And that's kind of why I felt with Mythical. I thought that she, last out in the forward gal, just had a rough time breaking, broke, a length slow, and then rushed up under Zaya's and was pretty much taken out of it, at the far turn, just to all the work she had to do. She gets to 6 furlongs now. She's ultra when she does break, she is very, very fast. And I'm hoping that her class kind of in here and her competition kind of falls back into place because she's somebody that's been, really talented throughout. And Delgado's put her in some really tough spots, knowing how good she is. And I think getting more towards the outside is something that should be beneficial for her.
Yeah, and this is one that I've always kind of played against just because she always seems to have the ability to give it up when she's not facing, Stallion Series competition or something. Well, yeah, too. But however, your point's completely taken. I mean, she's the winner of the Adirondack at Saratoga, going 6.5. This is going to be the first time she's been less than 6.5 since that back race at the Tremont at Saratoga where she won. Jaramillo's, of course, back in California, so Zayas takes the mount back up. But this horse has one way to go. There's nobody like the forward, like was in the forward gal in here. So hoping class can pay to that. I completely understand the thinking there, Pat. I'm going with Holland Drive, guys. And I was actually between the 4 and the 6. The 4 being a Fine Chardonnay. Both coming, or Fine Chardonnay coming off a little bit of a layoff for Ian Wilkes, who really, whenever I'm right with Ian Wilkes, actually, what I should say is I'm never right with Ian Wilkes. Either his horses run well and I don't have them, or I have them and they don't run well. But a Fine Chardonnay is a horse that I'm very interested in, but I couldn't get past Holland Drive, guys. And there's, for the pace scenario standpoint, in that, I think she's very good going the 6 to 6.5, especially at Gulfstream Park. Last time out, again, forward gal. No one like that is in here. I'm going to look to that race 2 back in that optional claimer, where actually some nice horses came out of that. Slay the Day came back, granted on the turf, but came back to win by 4 for Brian Lynch. Mo Hijinks, the second to last place finisher in there, came back, granted in a claiming race, but still came back to win. And even Cadabra came back to extremely increase her buyer in the Suncoast. And the last place finisher, Dakota's Little Aurora, came back to increase her buyer by that. So, you could argue that maybe the buyers are a little bit slow out of that race, or the horses are just continuously improving. If the pace heats up, forward, and Indian Miss, by the way, the dam is probably one of the most, next to like Puka, it's probably one of the most recognizable dams of my time in horse racing. You look at this, I mean, Progeny's 23 for 75 on the win end, 112 in the dirt sprint category. Who is that? Of course, it's Hot Rod Charlie. That's one of them. And Mitoli. So this horse is a half to both Mitoli and Hot Rod Charlie. Granted, there's been a bunch of them that have come out of this type of breeding. Some good, some bad, but that type of breeding is not to take lightly. And Practical Jokes, fantastic dirt sprinting. Will Walden, I'm going to basically exercise my degenerate Bill of Rights in here and play against Will, and you could play against Will Walden at your own peril. I just really like the trip that shakes out for Holland Drive. And I know she seems a little bit slower than some others in this field, but to me, like Mythical's kind of been on that downswing, although running against much better. Sweet Ember's kind of that untested horse, but if she's going to not get the lead as easily as she has in her last couple with Mythical in this race, I'm willing to look elsewhere at a decent price, hopefully for Holland Drive. Although I do like a Fine Chardonnay as well in here, just to try and get that same type of, I think she's going to be a little bit farther back than someone like Holland Drive, But if the pace heats up again, there's no reason why she can't pick up some pieces late for either your exactas or trifectas. Andrew, you're going with the same top three as me. Pat, you have, again, the number 5, but you have the same 2 other, you have the 2 in there in Sweet Ember and the 6 Holland Drive. So I'm going to leave it open to you guys. Andrew, I'll let you go first. Anything you want to mention on Holland Drive or anything others in here before we move on? Oh, he's muted too. He's got two for the price of one.
You are right. You are right. I agree with the 4 and the 6. I think both of those are the 2, I would say, I guess, closers you would want in this field. I don't really think that anybody's going to be technically closing from the clouds in this one. I think it's just going to be a lot of horses that are going to be pressing the pace. And I think that the 2 and the 5 are going to be the pace setters, but that's why I kind of faded Mythical, because I feel like when Mythical gets into a duel, she kind of fades. Maybe she just need that race last time out, first race as a 3-year-old. But I think that if they get into a duel, both of them probably will end up getting tired late, which will set up for a trip from like a fine Chardonnay or Holland Drive. And if at some point in my handicapping, I was going to single Holland Drive as well, but then I fell for the speed. So yeah, I was originally 6 on top, but yeah, I think it's between either the 2 getting a loose lead or somebody like the 4 or 6 coming from the clouds.
Yeah, and there's a couple others in here. Some I feel like I would have a complete surprise if they won. That being, of course, the 1 Dizon Dow and the number 3 Tis a Sweet Lady. Tis a Sweet Lady had a really nice race last time. It was against State Bred and on the Tapeta. She hasn't really run that well on the dirt, losing by a combined 64.5 lengths. So again, just a couple in here I feel like you could throw out. However, either you trust the speed or you trust the closers. It's as simple as that in a 6-horse field. In the any limit, I'm going 6-4-2. Andrew's going 2-6-4. Pat's going 5-2-6. On to the late pick 5, ladies and gentlemen. That starts in race number 8, as it feels like it has for the past 2 months. 2 months at Gulfstream Park, of course, being the championship meet. Starts with a really nice field, an allowance optional $125,000 on the turf, going 5 furlongs. And the thing I will mention, guys, is the weather has a chance to play a major factor in this race, because down here in South Florida, and how about that? The one time I get to go somewhere else is the time that I get to escape the rain. There's a 60% chance of rain on Friday that I see, and a 70% chance of rain on Saturday. We all know, though, as much, and I can tell you from a fact, it's Florida. It had a 70% chance of rain on Fountain of Youth Day, and it rained for a total of 8 minutes down at Gulfstream Park. So that's and it had a 0% chance of rain at Tampa Bay until later in the day, and then it poured on us for 20 minutes. So Florida rains come and go. It could be a complete bubble scenario where it kind of rains for 5 minutes and stops, or it could rain for 5 hours. I'm not 100% sure. So take it with the weather reports with a grain of salt. However, these turf races are definitely up for grabs, although they do go to the Tapeta, so hopefully the fields will stay intact a little bit more. I'll bring our picks up on the screen right now. Pat, you and I are both going with the number 2, Shades of Jade, the most likely morning line favorite for Tyler Gaffleone, and a trainer I always take a look at is Phil Antonacci. Andrew, you have the 2 and 3rd, but you're going with the number 6, Justin Queso, a horse that I am interested in as well. And I have in 3rd. Both horses, there's 10 horses in this field, and 3 of them are not in for the claim. And all of us are going with a horse that's not in for that $125,000 claim mark. Although it's a pretty steep one to get to at that. But Andrew, I'll let you go first, my friend. Again, considering you have a horse that's a little bit different than ours, what'd you like most about the number 6, Justin Queso?
Well, I guess the first thing I was turned on by with this horse is the fact that it's not Leparoux riding this horse anymore. I think that this horse might have a better shot here with Zayas, who's killing it right now on the turf, especially on these days where they're not, all the big jockeys aren't in town because there's better races elsewhere. I think that this horse has shown a lot of ability. Just has gotten some really interesting trips and questionable rides, sometimes being too far back, getting swung wide, whatever. But I think the layoff has been good. The workout tab's been pretty consistent. Nothing like special when it comes to the numbers, but I do like a consistent workout tab, especially when they do add in some Palmetto turf works in there as well to get this horse back and ready. I mean, and like you said in the last race, it's Ian Wilkes, and not all the time are you going to be on the right side of it, but when you are, you might get a price, and I think this one might be a little bit of a value play here. And I just think that there's enough pace scenario and a big enough field where in a sprint like this, you might actually be able to have a horse like Justin Queso sit fourth or fifth on the backstretch and make a run. And I'll take the value play here.
Yeah, I think Justin Queso is probably gonna be somewhere middling. My guess, 5-6 to 1, somewhere in there, because that last race at Churchill was very good from him. Lost to Civetta, who was running very well back then, and still is running pretty decent races down at Fairgrounds and for Brendan Walsh. So obviously a Godolphin runner always going to take money. So I do like Justin Queso a little bit for that pace scenario that Andrew mentioned. I'll show it on the time form right now. Of course, part of the DRF formulator product that is so good. And again, I talk about it all the time. I used to gas up DRF formulator when we weren't sponsored. So the fact that we're sponsored now, I love gassing it because I really can't use any other program service. It is by far the best that I've found. 1, 7, and 9 all going out, 9 being the favorite in the number Spiteful Sis, but looks like a decent amount of speed in here. So Justin Queso is one of those horses that should be able to relish that pace scenario and at least get up for exactors or trifectas. I have the horse in third. I'm also interested. Pat, you and I are both going with Shades of Jade, and this is a horse that should have some type of first run on a lot of these others in here. Going the flat 5, has that experience, has run well at Gulfstream. Maybe not keeping the same type of company as a horse like Justin Queso, who's running in, these Kentucky Downs, Keeneland, Churchill Downs type of races. But the flat 5 is always a question, and Shades of Jade has run that very well.
Yeah, she has. And Phil Antonacci, Kyle, like you said, has put this horse in some, tougher allowance races of late. And, I just think that watching her last 3 races, the 2 prior were ultra impressive, beating some pretty good competition who I would think would be favored in here. And then, last out, we'll show the stretch drive when, let's just say, Irad's going to want it back a little bit because that got tight in the stretch. He thought he had this race won right here.
Yep.
And the 5, I don't know who the 5 was in this race. Karaya, was just shut her off, and she couldn't get up. So obviously that's something that he's going to want back. And I just think that in this spot, Tyler's going to try and sit that stalking trip in a 2 or 3 path and just let this horse roll on by, because that's what she's done in her last 2 races. That have been pretty impressive visually, watching her late kick, getting by horses in the stretch, going this shorter distance.
And that was my one concern with Justin Queso, not to poo-poo Andrew, but was the fact that she sits farther back, and at these 5.5s and even 6s that she's been running, that's well and truly good enough. But this flat 5 at Gulfstream Park is so tough to close into like that, especially. Are the rails at 73 feet for this? Yeah, so the rails are at 73 feet as well, which being that far out generally plays more towards the speed factor, which is why I ended up going with Shades of Jade. Just been very good. And that 73 buyer seems low because she was completely checked on the inside and eased from the 16th pole. So, you could take that 73 with a grain of salt. If that's an 80 in here, she's probably, 7, 8 to 5 in this field. Now that she has a 73 in there, might get a little bit of a better price. However, Gaffleone, Antonacci, those things don't go unnoticed. I still think she's the most likely morning line favorite in this field. Andrew, you and I both have number 8 in your Cart Girl Stam for Rohan Crichton, who's another trainer that you cannot take lightly. Edwin Gonzalez comes in here second off the bench.
Yeah, I just think this one's a perfect presser type that it could fit in this spot when it comes to the distance. I just think that this one needed that last race, and honestly, being in that ladies turf sprint, I think it was a really bold spot to come back in off that layoff since November, and the horse just didn't really fire. Showed a little life early on, but just was tired late and faded late. I think she's going to be a little bit more strong this time out. And like I said with the Justin Queso, she has nothing but speed to run into. And if she's going to be the one that's going to sit maybe 4th or 5th legitimately, unlike how I hope Justin Queso is going to be, I think this one's actually going to be sitting right off the speed. I do think she's going to have first run. And Edwin Gonzalez the last week and a half, 2 weeks, it's been on fire. And when he heats up, I mean, he stays hot for a couple weeks. So I think that he might just have another big day out there. And yeah, sure, this one's in for a tag, but is anybody really going to claim any horse out of here for 125,000? And if they do, it's just another good payday for Rohan, who owns this horse as well. So there's nothing really to lose in this spot, and I think this spot's a little bit more favorable than the last race.
Well, and I think this is kind of those races that almost come up like an allowance race because, there's a lot of horses in here that have been running listed stakes, maybe not running up to snuff as some of those horses in those listeds, but they've run through all their conditions and they can't find a spot. The 125 almost seems like a safe type of race for these horses to go into, which is why you see 7 horses out of the 10 in for that claiming price of 125,000. Because if they lose them, Rowan, they brought this. This horse was sold for 77,000, made 231. Sells for, if they claim it for 125, it is what it is. But I think that I don't mind that this horse is in for 125, like you said. I'm interested. I have her in second. Again, sole fact of the matter that I think it's just tough to run into with those rails so far out at 73 feet. I want horses that are closer to the pace, which is why you see I have Carkle, Sam, and of course the 2 in first. But just in case, so again, I think we'll run her race. Just might not be enough with the configuration that's out there right now. Last horse we'll talk about is actually, Pat, I'll let you talk about both of them. The number 7, Miss Vivienne for Gail Cox, who you have speed type in second, and the number 4 in here, I believe it's Brizero, if I'm not mistaken, for Marty Drexler. So give us your last 2, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, with Miss Vivienne, listen, she's pretty fast too, and I just think that obviously this is going to be off the layoff, but watching those races, her last 2 at Woodbine, if she gets that speed that she's shown and she's ready to go, which her workouts, she's thrown in a couple nice workouts at Payson. She's been down here for the summer, so it's not like she'd be shipping down in 20 feet of snow probably, but she's been down here pretty much all winter. And I feel like this is a very kind of, detailed spot to put this horse in. And this is kind of the campaign to get her going into the summer in 2026. So I don't see why not. I think that she's running some tough competition and could definitely catch a slice, being that she's going to be, more forward in here. And then with Brizero, they bumped heads, the 2 of them, a couple times at Woodbine, and Brizero got, Miss Vivienne got the best of her, but they ran some pretty tough races. They were neck and neck the whole way. So I figured I couldn't not include her. And Marty Drexler has had a couple nice winners over the last 2 weekends. So I kind of want to ride that ship a little bit further. And I thought that her last race, that she was kind of put in some tough spots throughout, as these 5 furlong races do tend to happen. So hopefully David Egan can get her well suited, being in the middle of the pack there, and she's going to be coming from well out of it.
You hit every single reason of why I don't like these 5 furlong turf sprints in that explanation. I completely agree with you. Brizero has run some really nice races, including last year at Woodbine, going the flat 5 that would really help her here. And the boxed in turf at Woodbine, of course, is the inside turf course, not the weird one that they run on to the outside. So very good at this configuration. But again, having to break and having to close at 73 feet might be a tough ask, but maybe like just in case. So for me, type to round out your exotics in this race. In race 8, I'm going 286. Andrew's going 682. Pat's going 274. Moving on to race 9, guys. It's it's the second of 3 stakes on carded for Saturday. It's the Hutcherson Stakes, going for 125,000, going 6 furlongs on the dirt, and draws a field of 7, bringing up our picks on the screen right now. Andrew and I are both going with the number 7. Oh gosh, I'm not even. Oh man, this is not good. Disiasete. I'm gonna go with that. Junior Alvarado, Patrick Biancone. Hey, look at you smiling in the background. You try and do this job, all right? I'll listen to it. And I'll get back to you on that one. But Pat, you are going with the number 1, Arbiter, for Joel Rosario and Wesley Ward. Basically the straight Wesley Ward type, even though it's on the dirt. All speed, all the time, and Arbiter is no different.
Yeah, no. And, I wanted to look up Wesley, how many horses he's run down at Gulfstream, since the new year. And he's definitely started to unleash some of his horses here that have been working at Payson. And I think with Arbiter, Listen, he is very, very fast. His 2 races, the maiden race at Churchill at the end of November was very, very fast, and the Turfway race was the same way, and it was just one way or the highway with him. And I think the rail here should not be a problem. He's already done it on the turf, as well as the dirt. Getting to the dirt for the first time, seeing who this horse has been put to work with Nakatomi on the 15th of February, looked to have held his own, if not, done a little bit better. I don't see why this is not all systems go here for this horse. And this kind of set up as a stepping stone into the Keeneland meet in the middle of April, I would assume. So I'm really, really hoping that this horse is ready to go on the dirt, and I don't see why this shouldn't be a problem at all, because I'm pretty sure the Grand and the Dam sires are pretty loaded with that dirt sprint form.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I don't find it concerning that this horse is here, but my thought was, Wesley Ward starts unleashing right at Keeneland. The fact that this horse kind of shows up here first, I guess because working at, Paul Meadows pace, and almost seems like this was the plan all along. Yeah. But in my mind, it almost seemed like, is he trying to get one in him, before Keeneland, so that he can win a race at Keeneland, kind of going dirt sprint, something like that. Maybe I'm reading a little bit too much into the weeds, Andrew. You also have this horse in second. If this horse wins, I'd not be surprised by any means.
No, I swear I just had my whole Wi-Fi crash. I'm surprised I'm still in here. We're talking about Arbiter, I'm assuming, because I lost the last half of that conversation. Yeah, I think that Arbiter is definitely a huge contender in this field. I don't know if this horse wants dirt. Granted, I think this horse can run on anything. But you know how Wesley Ward's horses are. They're going to go to the lead. This horse is going to lead from the rail and from the far outside. It has improved no matter out of both races, I think, even just based off the work tabs out of that last race. This horse has not missed a beat. And I think this one's just going to have a good setup. However, we go to the 7. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that horse's name, but we'll go with the
horse. I just looked it up. It's Di Cachette.
You weren't too far off, Kyle.
That you weren't.
It took me 10 seconds to get there, Pat. But yeah, it wasn't too far off once we finally got there. But thank you to Mr. Pete Aiello, the GOAT, for saving me a little bit more of embarrassment.
Yeah, I think that the 7 is just going to be really, really good. I really am a big fan of that Patrick B. and Cone horse, though. I think this horse has a lot of talent. Those 2 Gulfstream races in the summertime were very impressive. Granted, not beating much, but the quality of horses in the Proud Man was okay. They came back well, and like you said, if it rains, this horse has a sloppy win, which is also another positive. I think the Breeders' Cup Futurity was a little over his head, but I mean, still a somewhat respectable number, losing to Ted Nafi and Blackout Time and Litmus Test and whatnot. Those are horses would be 1-9 in this field. So I think that the sprinting is where this horse wants to be. I think, honestly, 6 furlongs is where this horse wants to be. And that horse just needed a race last time out, and now should be in a prime position to really show his best stuff.
I absolutely agree with everything you just said. Every single thing. Not to mention, I mean, and straight up, this might be why this horse ends up being favored. Just look who this horse is run against. I mean, granted, the Breeders' Futurity, there's going to be a ton of stuff running in here. Ted Nafi, Blackout Time, Litmus Test horses that you already mentioned. And in Noah Maher fashion, the Soleil. Solitude Dude came back to run a 97 behind Commandment and Chief Wallaby. Probably 2 of your top 5 Derby contenders right now. Class President came back to win the Rebel. I mean, and Hammond came back. Granted, didn't run very well in the Gotham, but still has shown a lot of really nice one-turn form. And now Di Cachette shows up in a spot like this that's a lot softer than anything that any of those horses I mentioned are in. I really like Di Cachette on Saturday. My problem is, what price are we going to get on him? Because people are going to see what we're seeing. It's not, it's not hidden information by any means. Seeing all Ted Nafi, Solitude Dude, Class President in the form, people are going to kind of gravitate towards that horse. But Arbiter, I think, will take a bunch of money as well. So maybe getting something a little bit over, it might be like 8-5, 9-5, somewhere around that type of when it's all said and done, because those two are true standouts in this field. Might even be something like 6-5, 7-5. But I have the 6 full mine in third. Really nice win at Tampa under Sonny Leon. Now comes here. Jose Morelos is back aboard, but 3 for 3 at 6 furlongs. It could not be something I can ignore. Also should get to see a really nice trip out of this horse to at least pick up a little bit of pieces late for maybe your trifectas in this race. And I appreciate you guys not picking this horse in there, so I didn't have to say that on live air. So last horse we'll mention real quick is the number 3 Sweeping Shadow. Andrew, let's talk about it. You have the horse in third. Really nice win last time, but obviously a big step up in class.
Yeah, it's just a horse I think that really had the light ball effect or lightning bulb effect last time out. Granted, it was an optional claiming, wasn't much of a field, but just take a shot to give a price underneath with a horse that's lightly run against a field that outside of, I believe, the 1 and the 7 really is wide open for anything underneath. And this one might be a little bit of a price and maybe a little bit overlooked. And we'll see. I like the workout tab, and it's been consistent, and this horse has shown to have some early foot. And I definitely think that this horse likes the dirt more than anything else. So I think that this is a good spot and a somewhat aggressive spot for a small barn like Lisa Lewis's, who spent a little bit of money on this horse just to get the horse, which is another impressive thing for this type. But yeah, it might not be anything. It could run last for who knows. But I think this is an interesting spot for a horse like this with good breeding and a good performance on the dirt.
And the horse is Triple Crown nominated.
Right. So they thought of something of it,
Yeah. I mean, especially coming out of a maiden optional, win like that, obviously by 7. I really do think that she at least has a little bit of a chance there with Sweeping Shadow. My whole thing is I hope that Wooten, the number 2 Pressures Arbiter, which leaves a good way around the track for D Cachete in the Hutcherson Stakes. I'm going 7-1-6. Andrew's going 7-1-3. Pat's going 1-7-6. Moving on to race number 10, guys. Unfortunately, this, I believe, takes the spot of everybody's favorite time of the week, which it might still be. Lots of weather out there. It might still be. Claiming 25-20, going a mile on the turf, draws a field of 10. This is another race with the rails out at 73 feet. And bringing up our picks on the screen right now, all of us are going with the number 7, Nate the Great, for Tyler Gaffleone and Carlos David. A couple others in here. We all have you guys have the 3 Super Intensive in second. I have Hot Blooded and No More Options. We're all kind of around the same thing underneath. You guys are especially, but we all have the number 7 on top. Andrew's gone first twice. Pat, I'll let you go first again. What'd you like most about the number 7, Nate the Great, now into the barn of Carlos David?
Yeah, this is a doozy of a race. This is the perfect middle race for this pick 5 sequence because, I was trying to nitpick here and I ended up probably going with the post time favorite here in Nate the Great. Listen, his last race, I did think was not bad at all. It's just a question of who was in there. That kind of got me a little concerned. But what I do think is that he's run consistently. He's shown to run consistently. Likes Gulfstream a lot. Carlos David has been very, very consistent this meet and has been hitting at some great numbers. So I'm not going to shy away from that. And this horse is going to be more forward. And Kyle, like you said, with the rails and with the quality of the field, how many horses are going to want to pass each other? Because you look at some of the numbers here lifetime wise, and some of these horses just are just begging for a win. And I think that this is kind of one of the 6-year-old that has shown to just keep running consistently and still seems to be in a pretty decent form compared to others in here that are getting claimed out of bigger connections and are kind of dipping in form.
Not to mention, Andrew, that if this race does scratch off because of weather, this horse is 12 for 13 in the money on the synthetic. So that can only play into Nate the Great's thing. But the biggest thing I wanted to point out here is Carlos David's numbers off the claim. And talk about what you will, but I mean, trainer change first, and this is why I love DRF Formulator because I can never go away from it. Apply filters last 5 years, 49 for 166 off the claim, 30% with a $1.81 ROI. So good numbers all around. If anyone could turn this horse back to the mid-80s type horse, it's Carlos David.
Yeah, and this horse doesn't even really need to like change much in general to get to that. This horse is not far off from those 80 numbers that this horse was running in the late summer. Granted, I think the horse is better on synthetic. So, now that I know that the weather's kind of involved, I kind of like that there might be a chance that this horse gets to run on that. But I mean, this horse also runs really well on the Gulfstream turf. I mean, 5 for 7 in the money. The last time out, that race was pretty solid. I mean, it was against a little bit weaker than this spot, a little bit more, a shorter field at least. But you get Gaffleone, you get Carlos David off the claim. I mean, there's a lot of things to like here, and there's not a lot of things to not like here. So that's why I kind of just went with the 7. I think if I didn't go with the 7, it would be kind of wide open. So I think Nate the Great has a superb chance here, with run style and just new barn switch and everything included. I think this horse is probably one of the top contenders in this field.
Yeah, I'd say maybe again in a wide open
not the
field.
top.
Right, exactly. And you stole my thunder there. Come on, man.
Sorry.
But Pat, you and Andrew are both going with number 3, Super Attentive in second. I completely understand why. Another horse that's run very well on the Gulfstream Park turf course, comes out of a nice race at Tampa last time as well.
Yeah, it does. And, I'm going to get the kind of value flack. I do understand that the way this horse is run, that the value is just not going to be there, knowing the connections. But what I will say is that this horse does seem to be more of a consistent type. And at this level, maybe I misspoke a little bit. Maybe Super Attentive is the favorite, goes off as the favorite, just knowing the connections in here and, who this horse is run against. Because last out at Tampa faced Tok, who just kind of blew away that field and ran pretty impressively because got a dream trip. But I think that this horse is going to sit right there and is going to be more forward. And hopefully Dylan can get his second win out of 16 starts because he's off to a little bit of a slower start. But obviously we'd like to see him happy and healthy again. I just think that this horse has just been kind of very disappointing considering looking through those odds and watching his races. He's just never really gotten there. But I'm hoping that this kind of level is where he's able to kind of step up.
Yeah, and again, he ran a very, very nice race last time. Same back right in for the same conditions for Mark Casse. Hopefully to scrape a win. And yeah, great to see Dylan Davis back on the card and in the winner's circle. That was a very actually emotional interview that he did with them, saying that it feels amazing to get back in the winner's circle. So again, very happy to see him. Speaking of Tok, I was wondering where that horse went. That's a stakes winner at Gulfstream Park last year. And was, wondering what that horse ran in the Bourbon, and shows up in a 25 claimer at Tampa. So I guess that's where that horse went. But Super Attentive definitely makes a whole ton of sense. I went with the 2 inside horses, second and third. Then we'll move on to the next race. Hot Blooded, horse for Steve Casares, and Luis Saez. Happy to see him back down in South Florida, coming over from Oaklawn Park. And I believe he's moved his tack almost permanently down to South Florida again. I believe that's where he's from. Where his house is actually. So really nice to see him back. This is an 8-year-old run 48 times. I completely get it, but this horse is running really well against Optional Claiming Company at Gulfstream Park. Now coming in, dropping in for the 25, just trying to get another win. Last time this horse was in for the 20, blew the doors off the field running an 87. So putting this horse back to where he can win, I feel like is a very nice touch for Hot Blooded. And even when he's 8, he's still running very nice races. Same thing for No More Options, although being 5. This horse is another one that's run super well on the Tapeta, running an 86 buyer 3 races back at the end of last year at Woodbine. Joe Roseno takes the mount, or does the training job now from Kritschmar up at Woodbine. So seeing this horse back in for a field like this, a huge drop in class, but trying to get a win out of a horse like No More Options, I feel like might just be the thing this horse needs. In race number 10, I'm going 7-2-1. Andrew's going 7-3-6. Pat's going 7-3-5. Moving on to race number 11, guys, and it's an allowance optional 25,000 going the 1-turn mile on the dirt. Field of 7 draws in here. Pat, very base, my friend, going with the number 6 Fact for Junior Alvarado and Will Walden. I'm really exercising my degenerate Bill of Rights in here as I have both Will Waldens on top. Andrew, you're on with the Chad Brown runner in here, the number 4, First Call Bob Makes a lot of sense in the world. I have him second. Pat has him third. Again, lots of things to like about him, especially out of that first race here at Gulfstream.
Yeah. And also, if you hear rain in the background, I apologize. It just started to rain a little bit where
It's
I'm
pouring
at on my
here.
patio. So can't have nice things in the Northeast at this time of year. You can't have 80-degree weather and then not have it rain. So
Exactly.
but anyway, back to the horses. First call Bob, I really was impressed by this horse's debut. You know how we've been talking like the last 3 months between Gulfstream and whatnot, that Chad sends probably all his best turf horses over to Tampa, that aren't, obviously stakes caliber, but like, a lot of his first time starters go over to Tampa because he prefers that turf course. This horse was a dirt horse that debuted in Florida and could debut anywhere. And this horse dominated and showed a lot. And I think that this is a very reasonable and very smart return spot for that horse. It's not easy to debut going a mile and to do it and fight off all your contenders after basically pressing the speed on the outside, and then to pull away at the end, almost geared down. I mean, Gaffleon was basically showing the whip at the quarter pole, and this horse just kept opening up. So I think this horse has all the ability. I think the only horse that could beat him, in my opinion, is Vibe. I do think Walden has 2 good shots here, but I just think that the better barns are going to just have the better horses in this field, in my opinion. And I just think that the fact that Rapoli, basically private purchase Vibe out of that incredible main and special weight dominating victory back in April, and it's given this horse nothing but time, and the workouts have been nothing but good. I think Vibe's probably going to be one of the top contenders as well. And I just think this is a 2-horse race between Chad Brown and Todd Pletcher.
I mean, Pat, going to Vibe, I agree with everything Andrew said. With the 4, there's not too much to say coming out of that one race, but Vibe is the penultimate, like the ultimate horse of just not living up to what he thought. Obviously, you could look at the price tag on this horse. That kind of gives it away there. This horse debuted as a 3-year-old, absolutely nowhere. Then comes back, runs a hole in the wind. Then where the hell did this horse go? Completely gone off the face of the earth. Won him by 9 3/4 in there, getting an 86. Now coming back into here, this horse has all the makings for a superstar and just really hasn't shown it. And what I could imagine getting at 86 last time, I mean, he's probably going to be another very short price again. And I'd be willing to trust others in here coming off another 11-month layoff. When where the heck has this horse been?
Yeah, it's true. I just the one thing that's going to make him very liked at the windows, I should say, is, and I think Howard's referencing the work. The 228 work was with Disruptor, and he was right with him. And if that doesn't tell you that this horse isn't ready, I don't know what is. So listen, I want to bet the 6. Don't get me wrong, but Vibe is going to take a lot of money just off of that alone. And listen, the horse has been working well, but I need to see it, right? And I think, and I don't know if you're in the same boat as me, Kyle, with the 5 first call Bob, I just want to know who we faced that wanted that distance. Like, that was my problem. Like, I get it was visually impressive, but just some of those horses for bigger connections have just not been able to win. Like, Love Liam and Mainstream just haven't been able to win. And that's why I want to bet fact in here. Listen, he's coming out of the Smarty Jones. He was up close to the pace there, but at the end of the day, I'm just not sure that he wanted to go that distance. And I think that getting back to a mile, he's completely been working very, very well. Visually impressive works with Solo Venturi, who did run, I think, in the Challenger, right? Was that when you were there? So I just really like the way this horse has been moving of late. And Will Walden, Kyle, like you said, those stats have been really, really good. Off the layoff, 60 to 180 days, 5 for 17 on the win end, 29% at Gulfstream. So he's really, really well.
My boy Ravas JD's, baby. Number 6 fact, cannot lose, and that's what I sure hope on Saturday. Coming off that layoff, but Will Walden is always very good. You could see on the bottom of the screen last year, 23% coming off the layoff, $1.70 ROI. And this horse gets back on Lasix too, which could argue this horse has run some very nice races. One turn on Lasix. Didn't have Lasix in the Parks race where he ran his best number, but can only imagine that he'll only get better with the addition back on Lasix. Gets one of my favorites, Junior Alvarado, aboard as well. Loses Luis Saez, but I'm sure when you get the opportunity to ride for Napoleon Pletcher, you're probably not passing that up on a $3 million baby. So I completely understand from that fact, but I'm perfectly happy with Junior Alvarado. And I really like the trip he's going to sit. And that's the one thing I want to bring up here in this race. You can see the two. It denotes a fast pace in here just because I'm sure Rocketeer is in this race, and Rocketeer is extremely fast. Another one off the claim for Carlos David, by the way. Which is why I think do I have this horse in here? No, I don't, but I thought about it for sure. One very fast, but Fact just looks to sit a really nice race, really nice trip in here, as does Vibe. Really, it kind of depends on who's going to go. I think Fact with the inside draw to Vibe is going to be able to just press off of the number 2 in this field. And if he improves first time out at 4 years old, been working very well at Palm Meadows, 9 out of 90 for that last work. Pat mentioned the horses he was working with. So lots of things to like. And as you mentioned, that horse that came back out of that race was Solo Venturi, ran 3rd in the Challenger Stakes at Tampa Bay this past week, which ended up being a pretty nice field. So
that was
Fact
a good
is
race.
A horse. Yeah, it was a very good race. And Fact is the horse that I want out of here. And if he's ready, I want every single bit of what's probably going to be somewhere around 5-2, 3-1 in that range, because First Call Bob is, as Andrew mentioned, the connections are going to take the money, right? You have First Call Bob and Vibe in here. I think Fact's going to be a very close second, third choice somewhere in there, maybe around First Call Bob. And if that's the case, I will take every single bit of that value to try and beat a horse like Vibe. Others in here, there's a couple others. The 4, First Call Bob, as we mentioned. Number 5, Statesman. Shug's just been as cold as absolute ice, at least on the win end. But, he's over 50% in the money, and races that easily stack up against this field. The last couple, 91, 81, that 91 absolutely fits in here. This horse was put into the Wood Memorial. Granted, didn't run a single step in that race, but the West Point has always thought pretty nicely of this horse into this field, which is a pretty tough addition of an optional 25 N1X, might I add. But Statesman, if he gets the type of run I think he'll get, he can at least round out your exactas, or most likely your trifectas. In race 11, I'm going 6-4-5. Andrew's going 4-7-6. Pat's going 6-7-4. Last race we're going to talk about, and then we'll move on to best bets, guys. We really appreciate all of you watching here on YouTube. If you guys do enjoy the podcast, whether you're watching live or as a replay, go down below the video player, hit the like button for us, and hit the subscribe button. We would greatly appreciate it, because we'll hope you stick with us through the Kentucky Derby season and beyond. Race 12 is a flat 5, the Captiva Island Stakes. As I mentioned, rails at 10 feet, though, for this race. So this is an inner turf race here at Gulfstream Park. Draws a field of 11, and the flat 5 with a field of 11 is never a very enticing idea for me. I will be the first one to admit that, and have said that pretty much on every show for the last 170. So I'm not sharing away on that. Pat, you and I are both going with number 1, Moonspun, for Castellano and Brian Lynch. Andrew, you have him in second, but you're going with number 4, one of my favorite horses in training always, in Great Venezuela, coming off a layoff, coming into this race, hasn't raced since last year, but not reunited, gets Jorge Ruiz, Victor Barbosa, one of the most underrated trainers I've said at Gulfstream Park. Again, even though she's now 5, always runs her race, and granted, if this race draws to the synthetic, can only mean the better for her.
Yeah, I'm like I said, I'm glad that there's rain in the forecast, because it's just helping out my picks. Potentially helping out my picks. I think that this horse, like you said, is probably one of the better, if not the best, kind of sprinter, older mare down in Florida. This one's just consistent no matter what surface or variation of the 5.5 that this horse runs at. I do like that they've given this horse time off, and the workout tab has been consistent and also very sharp. I'm a big fan of Jorge Ruiz. he's had some interesting rides lately, but I still trust my boy. I still trust him, and I think that this horse is definitely one of those horses that just needs to be, break sharply, be in the mix. Doesn't have to be on the lead. Doesn't have to close. Can be a little bit versatile. And in a field this wide open, I just think that this horse has the trip out ability. And unlike some of the recent races this horse has run, we might get 3 or 4 to 1 on this horse this time out. And I think that you're not going to get that often with this one, so you might as well take advantage of it when you can.
I mean, I absolutely agree with everything you said. She's always super consistent. If this race does draw the synthetic with rain in the forecast, she's absolutely one you must use in this race. I know it's not saying anything too aggressive considering she's going to be second, third choice somewhere in there, but if you throw that horse out on the Tapeta, you're just asking for a little bit of an upset to your ticket. Pat, Moonspun, God, she's so fast and she's so good when she's on her game. This horse was brought off a year layoff at the beginning of the championship meet and is only rocketed to greater lengths every time she hits the track. 3 for 3 on the Gulfstream Park turf course, but even if this race draws to the synthetic, she's run fantastic races on that, going the flat 5 as well.
Yeah, she has. And the way she's able to just hold off horses and just kind of be able to get that second gear in the stretch. This is a horse that gives me a lot of confidence in, one of the bets that I'm going to play on my best bets to just, kind of be a single. She's got the rail, and I just feel like it's no way, it's one way or the highway with her. And, Brian Lynch has had these horses on the turf that have just been running unbelievable. I mean, I was watching on Sunday, I think, at Gulfstream. He had 2 horses in the maiden race at the end of the card. He's running 1-2. Those horses look spectacular going around the course. Yep. He's got everybody loaded up, and I honestly do think if it wasn't for the 11 Pandora's Gift in here, who's obviously running those mid to high 90 buyers, this horse might be one of your heavier favorites, I would think, right? Mm-hmm. Because she's just been very, very talented, and as we see in the chat, this could be a horse that's running at Keeneland too in some big races.
Yeah, and she's run at Keeneland before in an N1X, did very well there. So if she runs well in here, runs another 99, there's no reason why she can't run against horses like that. Howard brought up 11 Pandora's Gift, prepping for Giant Causeway Stakes at Keeneland versus Gratefully. Great, that would be an awesome showdown. Still like her Saturday. Miguel will have her ready, maybe too short of a distance, and I'll talk about that here in a second, Howard. But that's exactly why I have her in third, just because of that flat 5. But Moonspun, I agree with everything, Pat. Nothing really even to add on there. I just really like her, and when she draws the rail and she's all go as fast as she is, there's no better post for her than something like the rail. Obviously, in case unless something bizarre happens that would kind of disrupt that type of trip. We're all 1-4-1. Pat's 1-7 in here. Oh gosh. Is that Flamingo Way, Pat?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So go ahead. Talk about why you like Flamingo Way.
Yeah, listen, I just thought that she's had some excuses in her last 2 races. And if we get back to 3 back, she runs that race. She's hitting the board in here, and she was flying late. I'm not sure if she's going to be able to get up in here, but I want to give this horse a chance because I do think she's run into Moonspun twice, has been non-threatening, but has to deal with trouble. So if she could get a clear path, I don't see why she can't hit the board in here. And this is more of a play against Pandora's Gift, seeing if I could get this horse up in the exacta in this race.
Which I completely agree with, especially if he runs back to that 93 she ran against Lesser. Running against Moonspun, losing to her is no big deal, or no nothing to sneeze at per se, but I think she might just be a little bit of a cup below someone like Moonspun. However, easily someone you can get in your exactas and tries. And Howard brought up Pandora's Gift as the last horse we'll talk about in this race, then we'll move on to our best bets. She's very, very good when she's on her best game. In the Caress, the Intercontinental, losing the Pipsy, Future is now. I mean, any horse in this race, which they can't even be in this race, of course, but they would be 1-9 and 1 to 1,000,000 in this race. She's just very, very good when she's on her game. There's 2 reasons I don't like her in here. Just on the win end is the less half furlong that she gets in this race. It seems like a complete prep that she's running at flat 5 here. Not only that, screams 11 posts, wants to get, somewhere forward, somewhere mid pack. And if she's 5 wide on the first turn, or on the only turn for that matter, it's just going to be a very tough way around the track for her, at least in my eyes, Pat. But if she gets a trip, she's absolutely dangerous in here if she's ready.
Yeah, she's like you said, Kyle, she's just very consistent and has faced the class when it comes to kind of this division. And, the only race that I could think about is that Giants Causeway that she ran last year that we were all there for. What a race that was in the stretch with Future Is Now. And was it Dance Macabre, I think?
Yeah.
That was a very, very, very competitive race. But yeah, I want to take a stab against her in this spot, and hopefully, we can catch her next time when she's going to be a little bit of a better price. I'm assuming at Keeneland when she's facing some stiffer competition.
And I'm sure given my Keeneland track record last year, I'm guessing you can guess who I bet on in that Future Is Now Pandora's Gift type race with my, I don't even know, 40 picks at Keeneland for that spring meet. And I think I had 19 second places, which is just still pisses me off to this day. In the last race, the Captiva Island, I'm going 1-4-11. Andrew's going 4-1-6. Pat's going 1-7-11. Andrew, I'll have you go first. You have one win bet on the card. Talked about it a lot already. The horse's name, that's by far the hardest to pronounce. Although when you can hear it, it's apparently one of the easiest. Dicachete in race number 9 on the win end.
Yeah, I think Dicachete is definitely going to be, I think I'm going to take your terminology and it's going to be my IWW of the week. I think I don't know. It's the only problem is I don't like betting heavily on favorites that are probably going to be 6-5, and let alone I don't really bet heavily as is. But I think this might be like a bet with both hands type of horse here, and I think in this time of me being on this show, I don't think I've said that about any horse. Yeah. So I think that this is just really going to be a class above that field. And I think I'm gonna switch it up. My best bet against is Pandora's Gift in the last. I've watched Future Is Now, which is one of my favorite horses of all time. That my friends over at Trombetta and all that train, and I was there for that Saratoga Caress race, and I believe I was in the winner's circle that day too. But no, I've seen this horse get beat too many times, and I think this horse is going to take a ton of money, so it's going to be my bet against of the week. So just switch it up a little bit,
That's got to be. I think we might have to get, if it starts doing well, we might have to make that a weekly thing.
It might be. If we can get one bet against of the week, we might have a new thing to do.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. People love the irresponsible wager of the week. Everyone at TikTok that came up to me, they were like, "What's the irresponsible wager of the week? What are we doing?" Shout out to Brett Alvarez again. He's like, all we're doing today is we're drinking and we're hitting his irresponsible wagers. I was like, you're speaking my language, my friend. But yeah, people love the IWW. So the fact that Andrew threw that in there for the first time ever, we love that and applaud him. Pat, your 2 best bets. You mentioned the Turf Pick 3 singling Moonspun in the last, but going 2, 4, 7, 8 in race number 8, which is that flat 5 we talked about. Shades of Jade, Brizero. I don't know why that went away. Hold on. There we go. 2, 4, 7, 8. Shades of Jade, Brizero, and then Miss Vivienne and Cart Girl Sam in race number 10, the middle leg of the claiming 25,000. You're going with the 3 and the 7, that being Super Attentive, and the horse we talked about and all love, Nate the Great, singling Moonspun in the last, and then a race 11 win on the number 6 Fact.
Yeah, listen, I think that if I can catch a little bit of a middling price in the first 2 legs, I really just want to get to Moonspun because I think she's going to be really tough in that race. And that Turf Pick 3 seems to always pay a little hefty penny, especially when you catch one of those prices. And then, Fact, Kyle, I like that horse a lot. I think that ultimately may go off as the 3rd choice, which will be great. So, hopefully Will Walden has them ready to go, and that should be a fun race. And this is a great card, and you guys are going to have a lot of fun in Vegas with these races. I'm sure that these are going to be of some pretty importance, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is end of the day at NHC Saturday. This is decides who goes to Sunday and cashes and who doesn't. So it absolutely makes a ton of difference. And shout out to my Brett Alvarez, $50 pick 3s. He was alive to a $50 pick 3 with Canaletto in the last 2. Basically was running from the parking lot and still almost got there in the end. But Yeah, that was a time to be alive, and we were so, once we saw that first turn, we kind of knew what it was. And Pat, you like Fat? How about also I like Fact, and I'm truly exercising the Amendment 3 of the Degenerate Bill of Rights here with 2 Will Walden horses as my win bets. So win the number 6 Holland Drive, Indian Miss is the dam. Always need to pay attention when those horses start running, and with the pace scenario that seems to shape up between Sweet Ember and Mythical in there, Holland Drive should be the first horse on the back end to be ready to pounce on that off a little bit of a, not really a stinker, but a tougher race in the forward gal. And then Fact for every single reason that Pat mentioned. Love that horse. If they become third choice, I'll gladly take every single bit of that and try and run against a horse that's coming off a nice maiden win, but still looks a little green, and Vibe, who has been off for 11 months, not knowing where he is. Obviously, if he's working very, very well, can easily win, but I'll try and take a stab against a horse coming off an 11-month layoff that's going to have a lot of talk behind him. So, guys, thank you guys all so much for watching. It's been an absolutely great episode, and good luck to all of you if you guys are watching and playing the NHC. Again, I'll be out there cheering you all on. I hope everyone does well and can cash some really nice tickets out there. The craps table will be hot, I know. Shout out Gum, Neil Thornberry, Drew Coatney, Matt Miller, Brad Anderson, and everyone else, Terry Frank, everyone else that I missed. I'm going to be out there. Going to have a really, really fun time, not only at the craps table, the pie gow table, but of course in the back end of Horseshoe in Las Vegas. But for my co-hosts, Andrew Rosinski and Patrick Kunsel, has been your host, Kyle Roscoe, in episode 172 of Bettin N Boozin here on the HHH Racing Podcast, covering all stakes and Late Pick 5 for Gulfstream Park for March 14th, 2026. And until next time, everybody, crush those bets, win those photos, and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you in the next one. Have a good night.